What's up everyone, Sundown here, and today Shyowager and I are going to dive into the final match that happened on the Brazil server. The top two teams battled it out and it came down to a face-off between them to see who would take the top spot. Let's dive in and see what went down. What's up everyone, I'm joined by Shyowager, and as I said before, we're going to take a look into the final match that happened on the Brazil server during week 1 of the FNCS. Now the two teams we're going to be looking at are King BR, Reflex, and Fa, and then they're matched up against DC Mastier, C9 Blackouts, and C9 DK, also known as Dracons.
Absolutely. It's going to be an amazing game to watch. This is the final game, actually, of the set. Both teams are in facing head-to-head. They will go down at the end of this game as well. We're going to be looking at King's drop so far in their team at Pleasant Park, seeing what loot they can get, and swapping over POVs as we watch the VoD, analyzing and breaking down some of the top plays and moments that happen while the game plays on.
So as Shai said, we're going to be focusing on these two teams because they were the teams that finished first and second. As you can see, Reflex, Fa, and King actually get a llama right off of the start, have a rift over by the Durburger head, and on top of that, Pleasant is completely uncontested. So we're going to hop on over then with the C9 boys and Mastier and see what they have going on as they land in the Pueblo, just in that bottom right-hand corner. And notice how Dracons right away pops his minis and then also was able to pick up the scoped AR. And he's going to go look because he saw a number of the teams land just to their west, Shai.
Yep, this is one big thing that a lot of top tier players do in these other smaller top 4 regions. Every Elam matters as you see a big spray down coming in on Ryak. He goes down. The scoped AR is one of the strongest weapons, only mostly in the early game when you're uncontested on peaks, looking at people with low mats. And right here, DK just goes in, gets it up very efficiently. He had many options on it, just going back and looting up. But once again, when it's the top 4 spot, racking up on Elams as much as possible and being proactive is where you see most of these points come in early, mid, and end game.
And one important thing to note going in, right as the drop ended up happening, you see Dracons was able to convert, pushing them up to 96 points. They now have a 10-point lead over the other team, and because they are a little more clustered over here, there are other teams around them. They're going to have some more opportunities later on to have interactions, whereas King, Fa, and Reflex are going to be a little less contested, right? They're going to just be looting up. They're safe over in the Pleasant side. We're not going to hop back on board with them for a little bit. So right now, what are Blackouts, Mastier, and Dracons looking to do?
Right now, they're just going to try to keep momentum as much as possible. One big part about the south side of the map is that you get really funneled when you're going towards the other rotations if you don't have zone. Right now, DK, Blackouts, and Mastier don't. So in making pressure and room for yourself, alleviating any type of threat that's around you gives you so much more time and loot opportunities kind of northward. A lot of people who drop down here fight for the same type of residual loot after their drop. It's not like the Pleasant Park rotation where you kind of have residual loot from Loot Lake uncontested because junk is so far away. When you're coming up from Westworld, you have to contest Paradise Palms, the garage crew on the left. It's a lot more pressurizing here, so they're going to want to keep as much room as possible for themselves.
Yeah, and you can't see the full zone right now, but it did pull into the northeast, almost due directly north of them, which means they're going to have to pass by that other team you can see there in the orange kind of dot. So right now what they're doing is they're prioritizing on getting as much farm as they can. You can see a decent amount of brick and wood coming in the form from the building structure, as well as those cactuses lending themselves over. And these early materials are what's going to keep them safe on those rotations because there is no other form of mobility, right? You're not going to pull a driftboard out of here. There aren't any rifts coming from Paradise. You're not going to be able to rotate over to that area relatively effectively. So instead, they're just going to hoof it on foot.
Yep, and the big thing you also mentioned, materials and hoofing it on foot. The orange team at Garage will have a lot of metal. They're going to be kind of slowing down as they move across, getting wood and brick from the Oasis Springs just beside them. But DK's team has to book it all the way down to Bridge to make sure they actually get all their metal up once again because they only have the offerings of wood and brick. So the dynamic of every team kind of moving around the pacing is so different. And these chilies actually that DK just picked up increase that pacing tenfold when covering space on ground. As you said, Sundown, there is no mobility, so every little second matters.
And the other thing, as we get closer towards Paradise, Paradise was one of those hot spots, which means anybody coming out of there is going to have very strong weaponry. You don't want to get caught in the open, kind of rotating past a team who is able to loot up the hot spot. So you can see they're very deliberately going around Paradise, being like, nope, we want nothing to do with that. We want to be safe. We want to make it through to the end game, as 4 trios have already been completely dropped out of the lobby. And again, this was the very last match. When you're looking for the top spot, you have to do everything right in order to take it out. And now they're rotating closer towards that team who is on the west and heading in towards Fatal Field.
Yep, absolutely no man's land, and now it's kind of a purgatory type of space where there's not much noise going on. It's all your eyes, any type of sound that you can actually hear. A very spacious, not as hilly zone coming in once you get onto the grass as well. Kind of a scary moment for DK, but they have so much momentum from the earlier games. They know they're almost at the top spot, or at the very top spot right now as well on their leaderboards. And the scope DR is still coming in, Sundown.
Yeah, it's one of the weapons, you know, people kind of give it, I don't want to say a bad rap, but I think it's underappreciated, particularly in a meta in trios where you need Storm Surge tags. I don't know how many of you guys watch Tfue a ton, but he's been landing up on the Meteor, and he always says, hell, if I get a scoped AR off the start, like, he'll be knocking people before their feet even touch the ground. But now we can see the aggression continuing. So the zone did pull north of them, but it's cut off right towards the edge of field. They saw there were a number of tags, so look at their positioning on the bottom right-hand side. They're moving up towards the cornfield so they can get zone priority on these 2 other teams who are trying to rotate. They know the fight is going down, so rather than charging directly in, they move around, and they're now going to be able to storm hold them. As the storm moves in, you can see 90 seconds left on them there, or they can just wait and ambush them out of the cornfields as Blackout continues working his way around, and he also has 10 frag grenades there.
Yep, it's the best of both worlds. A lot of the times, these regions just get a bad rep for W keying, but right now, in this moment, you can easily say that they just come back, pop off at any moment they can actually see, rather than just going in blind prematurely.
And right away, Blackout's taking 2 shots and hits 222 tags, so he knows he can be aggressive. You can check the bottom right. There is 4 different trios here. One making the option to rotate back around where the C9 crew just came from, and another one opting to take a launch pad out and away. So now they're going to pinch in towards the team and the single straggler who's by Red Barn, because they want to pick up these eliminations. They were very aggressive, and you can see they have the pincer now. Look in the bottom right-hand corner. The green arrows plus the white arrow of Blackouts have prime position on these guys, and Blackouts is just going to let loose with these frags. In a confined area like this, it is very easy for him to pick up elims.
Yep, based on the loadouts, you don't really want to be up close and personal too much. There's not much AR going around for him. Plus, having the threat of moving on Storm first is huge. The nades come in, not only do they get eliminations popped off in the early engagement of this fight, but you do enough damage to where health is now an issue. Might see some people going down just based on their total health pool.
Yeah, so with the pressure there, you can see they're able to put down the shots and get the knocks and clean up that one team. And now they went all of a sudden from having 1 elim up to 5 and rocketed up to 100 points. So a strong early game right now coming out from Dracons, Blackouts, and Mastier. And you can see they're still looking to take shots, but they're not afraid of playing in the storm. This is one thing that I think really separates some of the top tier competitive players from others. They know that they can outlast this storm. They have the 2 chug splashes. They know that's going to be a combined value of 120 white HP across all of them, so they can take their time. And notice how they're rotating west away from the yellow triangles that are over there. They've seen those players post up at the edge, don't want to get an engagement. So again, taking their time, going around and being very deliberate with their rotation.
They know exactly what they want to have in their cook pot, in their pan on the fire. They know which ingredients are coming in first and foremost, and then what to do exactly after, how to cook that meal, prepare it, and eat it. So it's dope to see the engagement come through, not that much health lost at all, an upgrade on loot as well, gray weapons turning into blues, and then movement forward away from teams. Absolutely.
I really like the use of the burst SMG there. You saw how Dracons was able to use it to pressure the wall, but then close out against the drum shotgun. And I frankly think the burst SMG got a lot of flack when it first came out. We've been seeing a lot of players utilize it to great success. So now that they've been able to get clear, they're sitting on 100 points. Let's jump on over to the other team. You can see still 60 players, 21 left. So same timestamp, but they're posted over by pressure. They are maxed out on mats and trying to find this player, and they're able to get a couple dinks on the drift support along with white HP, and because they are around pressure plant, they're going to be able to use that gliding factor, throwing up into the sky to chase this guy down and continue pressuring on him.
You have a big thing about this glide as well. It's a very local type of glide, not like the geysers back in the past or the old volcano. It'll get you down really fast and up for beams just like that. Mega goes down. The launch pad, as I said, the difference in glides gets you a little bit too high, even as a solo player against people with the best aim. It's over. There's no chance whatsoever.
Yep, and King is going to reset, looking to find the player, going to let him be launched back up and then pick him up just to make sure also that the mats end up falling on the outer side, and they were the mats he needed, already maxed up there on the metal side of things, so going to get the max brick and the max wood right there. So, you know, just maximizing the efficiency, doing every little thing right, and you can see a number of other teams starting to rotate by them, so they're going to go back over to their old builds where they have prime position on the lobby, and this is really kind of the defining factor for what Fa, Reflex, and King were looking to do this whole game. They look to hold the positional advantage, try not to over worry, and try not to punish too much, but they will take shots when they know they're safe and know they're secure. As you can see, another team starting to rotate over towards that tomato temple.
Yep, I think the pattern we're going to keep seeing in this game with Fa, Reflex, and King right now is kind of an overwatch on the entire rest of the map, picking and choosing their fights because they are a little bit more behind in terms of points. They want to be playing in terms of that placement, whereas the C9 duo plus their extra member are going to be popping off at any moment on the low ground, looking for any type of more fragile engagements on trios that are moving about, kind of panicky. It'll get them more on the top spot in an engagement first, rather than a meticulous, drawn out fight later on.
And now you can see they're coming all the way from the south side, moving up towards the pressure plant. Mastir, DK, and Blackouts, they weren't contested during this point in time. They built up on top of Dusty and then used that far launch pad. So good decision from them to just safely get into the zone. But we saw how a number of teams have already begun to collapse over towards Temple. And that's where they're heading. And this is going to be their second major engagement of the fight. But notice how they're decently kitted out right now, right? Like, they have a solid amount of mats, minus the fact that they're a little short on metal from Blackout's perspective. But we saw their loot after they got out of the fatal field fight, and I mean, they're kitted. Blackouts now has added a heavy sniper as well. You can see right away the mark goes down, and they want to try and pressure.
Yeah, burst SMG as well on walls is one of the most effective things as kind of leading and weaving in through shots through turbo builds, as that fire rate is so fast in those first 3 shots. A nice combo we see right there, and the fight taking in from a 3-point pinch perspective. Every single wall is going to be used and utilized and taken in terms of pressure. They're not doubling up at all. They're trying to catch anyone off guard if they're lacking in any type of angle.
And this is definitely showing how Blackouts, Drakons, and Mastir are the aggressive ones here. The other team has been forced into a box and are being forced to work together while these guys are aggroing for it. Blackouts gets a 73 tagging, keeps forcing that player back. But if you notice now, Mastir has been separated away from the rest of them and ends up in a kind of a 1v1 situation where he gets the trap knock onto LCSYY, but gets traded back out almost immediately afterward, taking a 190 shot and then getting the pump and swapped on. So now Drakons and Blackouts are trying to get over and help Mastir out, trying to pressure so they can't get the full elim, but he's already taken the knock and he goes over. And that's also critical because there isn't a respawn van in play. There is no way to reboot your teammate and get them back here, but Blackouts wants to continue pressuring us. They know this is an even 2v2 fight, and they're also right on the edge of zone. So if they can get a resolution here, they'll be in prime position to rotate for the next game, but they're now at a disadvantage compared to Fa, Reflex, and Co, because they're not able to have a complete squad together. Those 3, including King, are going to be able to do it, but they do pick up Timber and then put pressure on the final part of the trio and force him to shockwave disengage away. You can see Blackout still trying to track him, but makes the call. Nope. Get all the mats, get everything we can. We're fine. 7 elims to open up the match, and it pushed them up to 102 points. And that is going to end up being a huge difference towards the end. Their aggression in the early and the mid is what's going to end up separating them between Fa, Reflex, and King BR.
Yep, they're on a whole different wavelength now too. With one person down, you kind of go into that duo plus coach dynamic. Plus, you get all the extra mats and utility available in terms of options after the fight. You get to pick up your own trio teammate's loot who's not alive anymore. You get his entire perspective on movement. And you get all the experience you have from actually playing duos in previous seasons in the dynamic towards endgame. So mid-round's not as cluttered. Yes, you don't have as many options on peak or tarping, but at the same time, you have all that experience behind your belt and an extra eye to remind you and your partner exactly what's going on.
Yep, and now we're going to flip back on over to King, Fa, and Reflex. You can see still right on the side of Pressure Plant, and they have a good zone control to where they're going to be able to put shots on other opponents. They've been established here for a long time, so if they want to get the drop on someone, it's going to be no problem. As you can see, their player running directly above the top of him, and just, nope, King doesn't even panic. He says, you can rotate away. We'll hold this high ground towards the side, and a good positional advantage, actually, to the player who rotated directly from him, got picked off and rotating into the zone right there. You can see him going down in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yep, now the dual-sided pressure is going to come in at any moment, or they can just stay and choose to be chill as much as possible. Once again, that Overwatch type of strategy, making sure you have a clue on exactly what's going around in the whole map, exactly what's going on around you. So it's very effective in terms of gaining information and making the right call to use the least amount of resources, whereas the C9 trio on the other side is just kind of in the fray of everyone else. So we'll see if these guys have any cool sightlines, any efficient rotations. Probably a Shockwave one coming up soon.
Yep, and you can see them going to use it. And one note on this Shockwave is they end up spread pretty much every single time. And it's almost always a 2-1 spread when these Shockwaves come out. They hit, I think, a 3-band Shockwave once or twice in these rotations. But that's one thing. Hey, trios, go into creative and practice it. Set up your Shockwaves. Try the Tfue one with the stairs. Try putting a cone in. Stand on the right sides. Try jumping at different times. You need to get your Shockwave rotations down. They end up cleaning it up a little bit better here, but again, you can see when it isn't all at the same time, now all of a sudden they're all over the place. And if somebody was able to be slightly more aggressive here, they could have closed them out, but instead they get edge of zone and they're moderately safe. And the big key is here, because they haven't been contested a ton, they're fine on mats and Shockwaves for when they want to go retake height.
Yep, big thing as well is that they were going downhill the whole time, so Shockwaves are actually kind of more efficient in that sense. You cover a little bit more ground if you're going horizontally from an elevated position. So definitely a lot of Shockwaves still available for that end game height-taking surprise factor that comes up. The height duo or trio up top gets dropped down significantly all the time, just sucked up from under their builds. A very low-key type of strat here, though, Sundown. Not many peaks taken at all. They do have a stacked amount of ammo as well to take any type of beams they want. We're just kind of waiting and watching for their first hungry moment to pop up.
Yep, and you can see the RPG damage coming in, and they've been playing very consistent and safe, but the difference being they have one Elim to their name right now, where Blackouts, Drekons, and Mastir were sitting on 7 the last time we watched, and they had a 9-point lead going into the game. So sometimes you have to know when to put your foot on the pedal. However, playing for late right now has been how Fa, Reflex, and King got there. So sticking to the game plan and finding success at it, you can't fault them for that. But sometimes that's not going to be enough. Sometimes you need those amazing individual efforts, and who will be able to come up with one as we're now getting into the final moments.
And that's one big other thing that a lot of trios aren't kind of, I don't think, utilizing just yet. It is just week 1. We only really had one cash cup before this. Is that the whole analytical side of knowing how many points you're at, knowing exactly how to play the next game is huge, and it requires a lot of out-of-game thinking. In-game thinking now, though, getting that height immediately after they see that, how much time it takes to set up those rocket RPG plus heavy sniper combos coming in, all the focus and tunneling it kind of takes, gives them that kind of window of advantage to get all the way up top on height, using metal as well to make sure their foundation is secure. There's no way a close-range RPG will come in, and they're fine switching over to Blackouts now.
And that showed you there how the high ground retake ended up coming through due to where the zone was. You see in the bottom right-hand corner how they were able to recognize how Fa, Reflex, and King saw the zone was there. They could build up double ramp for the high ground. Blackouts and Drekons recognized that and instead just went over the old build, saw that there were 2 other teams there, and made their way in with very little use of materials. So well done from that duo. And now they're in an opportunity where they're able to take some shots. And both of these teams now are in the same vertical stack with a team kind of stuck in between them, but they're able to take shots and have priority on that 5th and overlapping zone.
Yep, priority on fifth zone is actually very crucial in terms of getting any type of pick that you want. We'll switch over to King here from the high ground. You'll see all the type of beams they can get in position. And the ramps are a big strat that's coming out a lot of the times used in solos when sniping, but now kind of adapted to kind of block shots at any moment whatsoever. King will be hitting big shots down. Zeus goes all the way down to a quick 3-tap. Shields going down, white health going down. Being in prime position, everyone looking the same way as well, is so much pressure dropped at the same time. It's just easy pickings for everyone on the server.
And this doesn't happen if they don't take that aggressive high ground take. So this is where one of the situations where your positional awareness is enabling you to pick up more elims, but you're kind of, I don't want to say like hoping for picks, but you're not going to be confirming elims up here unless you're like lasering people out of the sky. And here comes another shockwave rotation. And again, it was a 2-1 with King being a little farther away, but they were enough vertically going down where they ended up staying together and maintained their high ground position. So they immediately 180 about face and look for the rest of the zone. So from one priority edge to the other, this is what really has enabled Thought, Reflex, and King to be in such a prime position this game. And you can see here King, even with the quick combat swap, able to land a shot there, but not quite connect all the way through. And then he gets became there and very well done. And we talked about positional awareness and converting into eliminations. This is a way to do it. You get more opportunities to take shots, but you're not guaranteed necessarily those interactions that will result in finishes. And now another shockwave rotation comes out, and again you can see a similar 2-1 split that's happening. The 2 Spawn Reflex ended up over on the side, and King ended up by himself as the conversion does happen onto Became in a cheeky little edit to knock that player down and allow his teammates to retake and hold tight as he now goes down and gets the finish off. So that is 4 elims they've been able to convert. But while that's going on, what are Drakons and Blackouts doing?
Yep, this is something you don't see too much. A GL held with rockets all the way in the end to use as utility. User goes down right there. Usually GLs are used for box up priority, getting as much pressure as possible. Think about them mostly in high tier trio games as big stinks that do a lot of build damage as well. In the end game, they're very hard to utilize, usually being self-destructive, but a very great use of being on high ground, utilizing your position to the utmost maximum and still having shockwaves when you are held back by your own grenade launcher movements, to kind of catch up on the zone you kind of lost when you're putting down pressure.
Yeah, and now you can see how Blackouts is on his individual rampage as Drakons did get separated, and at this point they're telling each other, hey, play yourself. We're separated, we're not going to get back together. You had the shockwave over there. If we can work in, fine, but right now, play yourself, play your life, do everything you can. We saw how DK got blasted, but then Blackouts hits 2 back-to-back shots, and he's able to get high on the spray. In the last passable shot, gets the conversion and takes over. Now only on 46 effective HP, but he has plenty of mats, so he's going to be able to tunnel in, and all of a sudden, they've now gone from 7 elims to 11 and push all the way up. So let's check it out. Now you have Blackouts in your top right, Reflex in the bottom right, and the rest of the action going on in the wide. Blackouts is pinned against the storm, but has continued to move forward, and Drakons is able to pick up an elim on himself. This is going to come down to the 2 top teams facing off against each other, but look on the wide how disciplined Reflex, Thought, and King are about controlling the high zone, getting over to the far side of the zone, getting the mats from their elim, and then about facing and putting down pressure. However, the problem with that is Blackouts and Drakons were able to work back together and pick up 2 more elims. So Zoom is the odd man out here, and Reflex is going to look to close out the match.
Yep, the big thing about this entire situation is Zoom being the odd man out kind of messes up the priority on who's actually on height. We see a big build battle going on for the top. Reflex does come out on top. He's gonna have the pressure from up there. It's now a 3-way, actually a 1v1 now between Blackouts and Reflex on the top side. We'll see who's gonna come out on top. High ground does have a lot of advantages. They do have a lot of mats to actually survive, and Blackouts also himself gets a lot of mats from the bottom. So it's a pure skill matchup, almost a PG zone wars type of fight at the end here.
Yep, and you can see the points there, 124 to 107. So Blackouts has already managed to lock it up. They will take home that very top spot, but you still want to close out the match. You want to be the one to get the victory royale, particularly when it is in that 1v1 setup. But Reflect doing everything that they've done so well. We talked about their positional advantage leading into elims, and that is what he's going to do. Sticking to the gameplay, maintaining the high ground, and forcing Blackouts to eventually eventually want to go up and want to challenge with the Shockwave, but it's difficult when you end up going out towards the zone. 2 shots go out from Reflex, and he makes sure to hit his last ones. Blackout's now on the high ground, but Reflex has every advantage in the world, sitting on 100, the effective HP, doesn't have the positioning, but can go into a heal off, has the slurp, and I mean, this should be clinical at this point, and it is. Reflex able to hit shot 1 and shot 2, get the victory royale, and close it out. That was the final match on the Brazil server, and we were able to see the top 1 and 2 teams battle it out in 2 very different styles, and it came down to a 1-on-1 at the very end, where Reflex was able to edge out Blackouts. However, Blackouts, Dracons, and Mastier were able to finish up on top. Thank you guys so much for watching this VoD review. My name's Sundown.
My name's Shyowager.
And thank you guys. Hopefully we'll catch you on the battle bus.